So we've made our cutout on the outside of the van. Now on the inside of the van, we just got a little bit of an obstruction here. So we're just going to cut this tiny little section out so our cow can fit in nice and secure and nice and properly without hitting anything. Also, because we're working inside of the van now, I've just laid down this sheet just to try and catch as much swarf as we can. We don't want little metal filings in the van because they could rust down the track. So we've just made our cut. Now what we want to do is file our edges so they're not sharp. And then once we've filed our edges, we just want to paint the exposed metal with some primer, and then we can start fitting the cow. All right, so we're just going to wipe down the edges with some isopropyl alcohol. And we're just going to use Rust Guard epoxy enamel to white to gloss finish. So when we fix our cow into the wall, we're only fixing it, when we screw it in, we're only going to fix it into the thin metal panel. So I've made a little sort of backing board, and I'm just going to use some adhesive, some Sikaflex Extreme Grab, and I'm going to put a whole dollop of that around there, and then I'm going to fix it on the inside, and then that way when I screw in the screws for the cow, it's going to go through the metal panel and also through the wood. It's just going to give it a bit more of a fixture, because that there is really flimsy. So that's what we've done. Okay, so now we're going to fix the cow, and we are going to fill this outer groove here with a sealant. Now, you're not recommended to use silicone, and we're using an automotive sealant. It's Sikaflex 227, and I'm just going to put it all around the inside here, and then we are going to push it through the hole, line it up, make sure it's straight, and then we're just going to screw in the 4 fixtures with the screws that are provided, and that should screw nice and tight into our backing board and fit that securely. Okay, so the next step is to fit the extraction duct and the exhaust muffler into the cow first, and then we put it in the unit. Now, the extraction duct, you just compress it as much as you can so you've got your exhaust muffler hanging out the end here. Now, you want to put your hose clamp on first, and then with your exhaust muffler, you want to push this all the way through to the end of the cow. This is imperative that you do this, and it has to go as far as it can all the way through. And then once you've got that through, then you get your duct, and then you push this into the muff of the cow, and then that's got a little bit of teeth here, and that will bite onto the duct. There's a little grub screw here as well that you can have secured in place, and then you just tighten up your clamp. And then also we have got the air intake muffler. So this here gets put on here, and that's also with the smaller clamp, and then it connects to the unit here. Now at this stage we're not going to do any of this yet, only because we haven't got our wall up yet on the side of the van here. So we're going to talk about the water connections. Now this is the back of the Truma D6. 2 connections. We've got the water, cold water inlet, which is there. That's a 10mm connection there. And then we've got the hot water outlet where the hot water will come out of, and that's there. Now Truma supply some elbow connections here. They're color coded. We've got blue and we've got red. Blue for cold water, red for hot water, and they're just a push fit fitting, and that 10mm fitting there will push into the 10mm connection down the bottom there for the cold water. And then we have a 12mm on the other end of the elbow. It's a 12mm fitting, and that's where you connect your water pipe to, and it's recommended to use John Guest 12mm pipe, and I've just got a little for display here, a little cut off, and the same again, it's just a push fit fitting, and basically you just push that in and that locks into place nice and secure. So at the back of the Truma boiler here, we have a couple of different water inlet and outlet points, and this is the elbow for the hot water, and this is where the hot water will come out. So this aeration valve releases air from the unit. It makes sure it's always flooded, and it's connected with this hose here, and then that will drill a hole into the van floor, and that will just escape down through the bottom of the floor here. So a quick rundown of how it all works. The water will come from our water tank and it will get pumped using our water pump, 12-volt water pump, and then it will come to this fitting here, and this is a water pressure reducer. And then from there, the cold water will go to here, and this is a John Guest T connection, and it will go up to our sink. We'll have our sink here, and then from there it will come to this elbow, and then it will go to what's known as a non-return valve. This just makes sure the water flow can only go one way. It can't go back on itself. And then we've got a pressure release valve here. This also will be a connection through the van floor, and we'll be able to release the pressure with this valve here. And then it will elbow off, and then it will go into our inlet point here with the elbow. So with the hot water will come out through our John Guest 12mm pipe, and then it will come around, elbow off, and then it will come up to our sink. So when we want hot water, we'll be able to have hot water as well as cold water with our sink, and then it will also come over to our shower, which will be just here behind me, and that will feed the shower as well with hot water. So that's basically the setup of how it's going to go. So we're not going to put everything together just yet, simply because we're going to wait till we put down our van floor first. We're going to put down our hybrid flooring system, and then once that is put down, we can then drill through the floor and also our subfloor through to the bottom of the van with all our venting pipes and drainage valves and everything else. So all that will come in part 2. We're going to plumb it all up in part 2, and hopefully we'll have some cupboards and everything built. For now, we're just going to show you how it works. Also, while we're here, I'll talk about our ducting system. So this is the duct here, and it basically has got these ribs, and you can bend it however you want. Now there's 4 ducting outlets on the back of the Truma system here, and basically what you do is you feed the duct into the inlet here, and it's just got these little teeth that grab onto the ribs, and then you just fix it with a grub screw. Now there's 4 outlet points, so we're going to have 2 coming out this way and then 2 coming out to the rear of the van. We've got only one length at the moment. It's only 5 meters, so we'll probably have to grab another 2 more lengths. So another 10 meters of ducting, but also we'll show you all that once that arrives. probably in part 2 of the video. Okay guys, so now we are on to the fuel side of the install. This here is the 12-volt diesel pump, and it sits on this little rubber mounted cradle and also this bracket. Now this gets mounted underneath the vehicle, so you've got the intake side here, and that's got to be a maximum distance of 2 meters from the fuel tank, from the fuel line. And then you've got the pressure side, which is this side, and that can be a maximum of 6 meters from here to the Truma unit. Also, another thing too here on the 12-volt diesel pump is we've got the electrical connection here for the cable. That will get connected there. When we mount this, we need to find somewhere, a good location where it's obviously going to be splash proof and away from, you know, rocks and everything else. So the fuel lines get routed from the fuel tank to the inlet side, and then from the pressure side up through, and then the Truma unit is just here above my head. So we'll have to drill through the van floor, and then that will get sent up to the fuel inlet pipe on the Truma unit. So in a nutshell, that's how the diesel 12-volt pump works and the fuel lines, but we'll connect all this in part 2. So I'm now going to talk about the electrical components of the Truma Combi D6 and all the different cables that connect to the unit. So first off, we have the metering pump. This is the 12-volt little diesel pump connection. Now this has got a protective conduit over the cable just to protect it because it's going to be underneath the van. So that will connect to the pump, and then this will connect to the back of the unit. We have got also another cable, this one here, and this is the room temperature sensor. Now this is just a small little cable that will get fitted up near the door, and this is basically just going to measure the room temperature. We have got the control panel, and that will be connected via this control panel connector here. And then we also have the air intake cable, which is on the cowl, and that will also be connected to the Truma unit itself. Now let's talk about the control panel and what each little connection will be doing. So the electrical connections are located under this connection cover, and the cover just sits in like that. You take that off. Now what we have is we've got our input 12-volt voltage. We've got our positive and negative terminals just there. We have got our metering pump cable, which will be connected here. We have our 2 fuses. We've got our device fuse, which is the smaller one, and then we have our burner fuse, which is the bigger fuse here. Over here we have our room temperature sensor, which will be connected, and then also we have our control panel connector. Lastly, over here we have the extraction fan that's going to come from the cowl, which gets connected here. So thanks for watching, guys, part 1 of our Truma Combi D6 installation. We hope you found this video a little bit helpful. So in part 2, we'll connect everything up and show you guys how the system works and how it runs. So thanks for watching the video, guys, and we'll see you in part 2.